Hello, welcome to Lesson 8 on the design and implementation of Soccer League Transfer Portal using server-side Blazor. I am Benjamin Ferdinand. In this lesson, we will continue with the customization of the application's CRUD pages. So the first thing we are going to do is to ensure that our SQL Server service is running. Okay, the SQL Server instance is running. So now that we have seen that the SQL Server is running, the next thing I'm going to do is to connect to Management Studio. So I click connect. And now that I've connected to SQL Server instance called the the next thing to do is that I want to connect to Radzen. So in order to connect to Radzen, I will type RAD. So now I click connect. So the next thing is I will click on the Soccer League Transfer app to open it. So the application is now open. I'll close this dialog. Now the next thing I will do is that I will click run. So now the application has started. I'm going to first of all test the cancel functionality on this page, on the login page. Okay, it's working. So I'm going to sign in. Okay, so now I'm in. And the last time out, we customized the user's page such that someone who is not in the site administrator role cannot have access to it. So now Arsene Wenger cannot have access to that page because he's not a member of the site admin role. But this user, Moyek, should have access to users page. I click on users and you can see he has access. And in the last lesson, we implemented the confirm delete functionality. Uh, okay. So we've also implemented confirm delete for gender stable as well. So let's add male as a gender back. Okay. Now let's go to players and implement and customize the CRUD pages for players entity. So I click on players. and let me click on add. So let's see. I'm adding the day driver, gender for the day driver is male, club detail is blue FC, player photo. For now, let me just enter this email, the email. Let me just enter whatever. Contact phone. Player position. Forward. And I click save. Okay. Let's go ahead and customize the add players page. What we will do is that we will stop Radzen. Then we click on add player under pages. I will minimize this output. Now, the first order of business for me is that I will customize the validation for first name. Okay, then I'll customize the validation for gender. I'll change it to text, validation text from gender ID is required to gender is required. Then I'll customize the drop-down list for choose club detail. I'll change the placeholder from choose club detail to choose club. Then I'll change the label for the text for club detail from club detail to club. Now the next thing I will do is I'll go to player photo. I'll delete the text box. I'll delete the required validator for player photo as well. Then I'll go to toolbox. I'll look for a control called file input. I'll drop it. Then I'll change the name of this file input to player photo. Then I will bind it to a value called $player dot player photo. Then I'll change the choose text for this to upload player photo. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'll look for validator. I'll search for validator controls in the toolbox. I'll drag and drop required validator after player photo. The component, the associated component for this required validator will be player photo. The validation message will be player photo is required. Now for the contact email, I will customize the validation message for the required validator. After putting a space in between that, we want to ensure that whoever is entering the email will enter a valid email. So we'll drag email validator. So we'll drop after required validator. So the associated component will be, for the email validator will be contact email, and the text will be please enter valid email. We will customize the validation message for contact phone by putting a space between contact and phone. Then we'll go to player position. We'll customize the placeholder message by putting a space between player and position. Then for the validation message, we'll remove ID from the text so that it will become position is required. Now, after we have done all this, the next thing we want to do is to run the app to see what we have. So I'll click run. So I'm going to sign in as Moyek. So when I go to add players now, and I say save, the validator controls, they do their job. So let me register Dennis Baka, Club Guna FC. So player photo, pictures. Now the beggars, Guna FC. Let me see. They say please enter valid email. Guna FC.com. Contact phone. Choose player position, attacking midfielder. Then I click save. Now let me double click on Didier Drogba's record to edit it. In order to edit Didier Drogba's record, I double click on it. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to customize edit player page as well. So in order to do that, I will stop the app. So I'm now going ahead to customize the edit player page. I'll click on it. I'll customize the first name validator. I'll customize the gender ID validator. I'll customize the placeholder message for club detail. I'll customize the text for club detail. I'll delete the text box for player photo and the validator. Go to toolbox, look for, or instead of going to toolbox, I can go to add player page. I click on upload player photo. I go back to edit player and I'll paste it there. I can go back to add player page, copy the required validator, go back to edit player page, paste it after player photo. Contact email is required. I want to customize the validation text. I can go back to add player. This time I go to outline. I'll select the email validator. I'll click on copy. I'll go to edit player. I'll go to outline. I'm in edit player now. This time around, look for the column where contact email is. I paste. Contact phone is required. I'll customize the validator by putting space between contact and phone. I'll customize choose player position. Choose player. I'll customize position. The text the validator for player position. Position is required. So let's run and see. So I click on run. So I log in as Malik, put in my password. Now let me edit the Dropbox record. I double click on that and say please enter valid email. So it worked here. Then the next thing we are going to, for the player photo, let me click close there. Say player photo is required. So let me use this player photo. Say save. Another issue I have with uh, the player crud pages is I want the thumbnail of the player's photo to be displayed here. So this time around, that's under player photo column. So what do? What I'm going to do is I'll stop the application and I'll look for players list page. This is it. I click on it. After clicking on it, I'll click on the data grid. After clicking on the data grid, I'll go to columns. Then I'll highlight player photo. Then I'll go to template. After going to template, I'll now go to toolbox. I'll look for image control. Drag and drop the image control. I'll now data bind the path for the image. And the path for the image will be player photo. Then I click OK. Let's look at the style. Right now the width is 50px, 50px. Let's leave it that way. And template editing, and this is what you have. So let's run the app. So now I'm going to sign in as oh, at 50px the image is quite big. One more thing, I want to edit this photo. So let me click close here. I replace it with my own picture. I click save. Now the photo is too large. So what do? I'll stop the application. I'll go back to the data grid. I'll go to properties. I'll make sure I select player photo. I'll edit the template for it. I'll scroll to the left to see that I'm seeing the image. I go to style. I'm going to change the width to 30px and the height to 30px. End template editing. After ending template editing, I'll click on run again. So now I'm going to log in as Moik again. Type in my password. And this is much better. So I double click on this. This is what I've got. I double click on this, and this is what I've got. The next thing I want to do is to implement the confirm delete page for players. Now, how do I do that? stop the application. Then I'll go to pages. I'll look for the page whose name is Edit Player. I'll right click on it. I'll say duplicate. Then I'll right click on the duplicated copy of Edit Player. I'll go to properties. So I'm going to change this to confirm delete player. Then I say save. Now after saving, the next thing I'm going to do is I'll go to players page. This players page. I'll click on the data grid. Click on the data grid. I'll select the data grid. After selecting the data grid, I'll go to events. I will select the data grid. I'll go to properties, I'll select the data grid. Then I'll go to columns. After going to columns, I'll look for the last column, which is for the delete button. I will now select edit template. I'll click on the delete button. I'll go to events. I will click the undo click event. I'll delete all the event handlers here. I'll click plus to add a new event handler, and under action type, I will select open dialog. To which page? Confirm delete player. Now I need to set a parameter. And the parameter I'm going to set will correspond to the primary key of the players table. Now I'm going to open the players table in design view. Now opening the players table in design view, you see that player ID is the primary key. So I come here, I click on plus, name, player ID is the parameter. Now I'm going to bind the template property called player ID as the value of the parameter. I click done. Okay, then I click done. So that's that. I'll click on template editing. Then one more thing, I don't want this, so I click delete. I click done. Now, oh sorry, I made a mistake there. I thought I was editing the button, so I'm going to copy that other method back. So let me just look for something that has that. So I'll just go to events, just come here, then Qt C#, that's code, click done. So I go back to players, go to events, for this one, Qt C#. So a brief recap, what we implemented here was actually selecting players, going to properties, going to columns, selecting the delete column, going to edit template, clicking on this delete button, going to events, click event handler. I deleted everything that was there and I replaced it with open dialog to confirm delete player, and we set a parameter called player ID. So now that we are done with that, we are going to confirm delete player. So this confirm delete player. And there are some things we don't need here. Of course, we need the method to get the player by player ID. But first of all, let me click cancel. Let me delete the things we don't need. I don't want middle name. Okay, sorry, I don't want the text box any longer. I don't want the required validator. I replace the text box with a label control. I set the value of that label control to $player dot first name. I don't want this middle name, so I deleted it. I don't want the text box here either, so I delete. Okay, I go to toolbox, drag another label, set the property to $player dot surname. I don't want gender as well, so I go to outline, click on the row for gender, delete. I want to display the players club, but as a label. I can copy, I can paste the label there, but this time around I go to properties, I'll change this to player dot club detail dot team name. And because it's possible for the club property to be null, I'll go to the data bind and further says that put the nullable property there, nullable operator. So I click OK. Now there are some things I don't want. I'm going to remove them. I don't want the contact email row. I don't want the contact phone row, so I delete it. I don't want the player position row, so I select it and delete it. Then one more thing. I want to display the player photo. In an image control, so I delete this. I will also delete this. So I go to look for image, drag and drop. I adjust it till I'm satisfied. Then I go to properties for the image. I will data bind it. I will expand the player property and that I bind it to the player photo. Player photo. Then I come here, I'll change the text to delete player. Change the icon to close icon. Then I go to the outline. I'm going to select this, the first row in the form where first name is. I right click on the row and say duplicate. And after duplicating, I'm going to right click on the second column in the first row and delete it. I'll click on the label in the first row, delete it. I'll bring an heading in the first row. I go to properties, change the size to 81, text to player. I'll go to outline again. I right click and duplicate. Go to properties. I'll change the text to confirm. No, I'll change the text to are you sure? You want to delete this player. Now I will select the heading. I will change the size to heading 3. Then I will drag it until it's the shape I want. Now the next order of business for me is to write a custom method that will delete my player. Go to applications. I'll click on show application directory. I'll double click on the Visual Studio Solution file. Now the application has opened in Visual Studio. So I go to Solution Explorer. And what I'm looking for is the confirm delete players page. So I'll expand confirm delete player.razor. I'm going to click on confirm delete player.razor. So let's customize. Custom method to delete a player. So say private async task week delete player. Private async task week delete player. So call service. Okay, before we do that, let's put in our try catch exception, notification service dot notify application security dot error summary, delete player error detail and error occurred while deleting player. Display error message for 5 seconds. Now, call service player method to delete player. So await on data dot delete player, we take in as parameter the parameter that was passed in from the players list page, which is player ID. Then forcefully reload players list page. So URI helper dot navigate to players, and forceful reload will be true. Now let's run the application in Visual Studio to see what we've got. So okay, let's run it to see that there is no error. Let me see. Let's stop the app. There is no error. But however, there is still one piece of business to do. We have written this method, but this method currently is not being called. You see, that's why you see the indicator 0 references. So what do? We need to hook up this method in Radzen. So what I'm going to do is I'll go back to Radzen. I'll click on Soccer League Transfer app. I'll go to the Confirm Delete Player page. I'll go to Outline. Now, I'll go to Form. So after going to Form, I'll go to Events. I'll undo the Submit event. I'll delete everything that is there. I'll click on plus to get a new event handler. The action type will be execute C#, and the code will be await. What are we going to await? This method, Muyik delete player. I click done. Now there are some methods we don't need in this page that we are going to delete, because originally this page was an edit page. So we'll go to the outline, we'll click on page, we'll go to events, we'll handle the page load event. We don't need to load genders again. That was for genders dropdown. We don't need to load club details. We don't need to load player positions. So click done. Now, the last piece of business is after this customization now, we are going to run the app again to see what we've got. So let's run. So we now when I press on delete button for the broadcast record, this is what you get. Are you sure you want to delete this player? Click cancel takes you back to the page. Press delete again. Now when I say delete player, off it goes, page is reloaded, and you can see the record has been deleted. Let me click add. Let me click on, let me create another player called John Gallagher, gender male, club, Blue FC, player photo, J Gala at blue.com. Player position, goalkeeper. So I click save. So we've just tested our delete functionality, the confirm delete functionality, and we can see that it's working. Now, the next piece of business that we are going to implement is the access control for the players' crud pages. Now, when you go to rows, we want only club manager and site admin rows to be able to edit a player. So we'll implement the access control now. So in order to do that, we'll go to Radzen, stop the application. We'll go back to Visual Studio, and we will copy one of the access control method that we have implemented in earlier lessons. So I'm going to copy this method. So the first page I will go to copy this is add player. So I'll expand add player. So add player.razor. Drop in the method. I'm going to import necessary namespaces. I'm going to import this as well. The namespace for that. I'll import namespace for this as well. So on this line that says check if user has any claims and see if user belongs to site admin role. We become check if user has any claims and see if user belongs to site admin role or club manager role. So now this one will become put an extra bracket here, bring in the or operator, copy and paste this. So user state the user is in what rows? Let's see. I click on that row, select club manager. So club manager. So do nothing, otherwise you direct to login page. Now we need to hook up this method. Now to hook up this method, we go to add players page. We handle the page load event. Click plus and we promote the new empty event handler to the top. We set the action type to execute C# and we are calling the method await check user status. And I click done. So the method has one reference now. So when I run it in Visual Studio, sign in as Muik. Click on add player. I have access. Now let me go to users. Sorry, I just press continue here. And let's see Ronaldo. Let's edit Ronaldo's role to be just player. So I click save. I click continue. Let me stop debugging. Let me run the application again. So I'm logging in as Ronaldo, who belongs to just player role. When I click add now, it doesn't allow me. Instead, it redirects me to the login page because Ronaldo does not have the necessary authorization to access that page. So quickly, I'm going to implement the access rule for edit player page. Let's go to edit player, open edit player to Blazor. I'm going to paste, sorry, I think copy well. So Go to add player, copy again. Excuse me. Okay, better now. Copy, paste. Just like I did for the add users page. Go to edit player. Go to the page load event. Pick the plus handler, the plus for the handler. Promote the new event handler to the very top of the pile. The action type for it will be execute C#, and I will be calling my custom method quick check user status. Method is being called. So let's test run that as well. So I sign in as Ronaldo, who belongs to just the player role. And I try to edit Dennis Beckham's record. He redirects me to sign in page. I sign in as Moyik, who belongs to site admin role. Click login. I have access to edit functionality. Now, so I want the add button and the delete buttons to be visible if only the currently logged in user has editing capabilities. So what do I do? Well, I'll go back to Visual Studio. I will stop the application. Then I'll go to Layers page. I'll go to the load event for it. I'm going to create a new empty event handler. I'll change the action type to set property, and the property will be can edit. And right now, I will change the value of can edit to false, which is Boolean. So I say done. Then I will go to the players button. I will data bind the visible property. I will change it to dollar can edit equals true. Then I'll click on the data grid. I'll go to the columns. I'll look for the delete column. I'll go to edit template. I'll click on it. I'll click on the delete button. I'll look for the visible property. And then I'll bind the visible property to dollar can edit equals true. And I'll say end template editing. Click OK. I will now go back to Visual Studio. I'm going to copy the check user status. Method. I'll go and paste it in players page. The code behind for players page. So this players.razor. I expand players.razor.cs. I paste in this method. I import all necessary namespaces. So I check if anonymous user has signed in. Now, if you have signed in, you'll be allowed to view the page. So there'll be no else. But if you are signed in and you belong to any of these roles, we are going to set can edit property to true. So the next thing we do is we'll call this check user status method. So how do we do that? We go back to Radzen, go to players, this page, we go to events. Sorry, we go to outline, select page, go to events. Select action type, execute C#. The name of the method is check user status. promote the method to the second level on the page. Click Done. Now it's time for me to test. Before I test, let me just modify this to say if user is logging. This is just for authenticated user. Else, bracket, logged in user. Else, this one is for somebody who has logged this. Else is for somebody who has logged in and is in site admin or club manager. So let's test. I log in as Ronaldo. Click login. It's an error. So the error occurred because I forgot to inject the property. So let's run again. So I'm logging in as Ronaldo, who is a player. I'm able to log in. He does not have access to the Add Players button. He does not have access to the delete button. Now let me run the app again. This time as Moyek, who belongs to site admin role. Let's see. Let's see roles for users in role. Moyek is in site admin. Let's do some bit of debugging. refresh. The error is coming because of what we did here. So let's just maintain this. So let's log in as Moyik. You can see the hat and we can delete. Now let's stop the app. Let's log in as Ronaldo. Click login. Ronaldo cannot see the edit icons. One more piece of business before we close the lesson for today. And that piece of business is that we are going to remove this redirect to login link. So how do we do that? We go back to Visual Studio, stop the application. This time around, we go to Radzen, go to Layouts, we click on Main, click on Panel Menu, click on Items, then I'll populate from Application. I'll click on this redirect to login. I don't want it to show again. Then I press Delete, then I click Done. Then I'll click Run to run the application again. So the application has been reloaded. I log in as Moyik. Click Login. And you can see that the link redirect to login doesn't show again. So on this note, we have come to the end of today's lesson. In the next lesson, we shall be customizing the crud pages for player positions. Thank you for watching.